Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue are a couple of OF models who have gone viral recently for what looks like an attempt to outdo each other on the world record for who can sleep with the most number of men in 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever new time frame that they set next. In the same vein, Sami Sheen, daughter of Charlie Sheen and Denise Richards, has gained attention for her work in this industry as well. Thankfully, many agree that this is vile and degrading, including a lot of women. What's even more shocking about their behavior is that the people who should be most appalled by their actions are the ones who are cheering them on, their own mothers. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here. Do me a couple of favors, hit the subscribe button and also hit the thumbs up button and turn on the notifications so that you never miss out on a conversation like the one we're about to have. So there seems to be an unfortunate growing trend of young women competing with each other about who can be more extreme online with their sexual activities. I covered the story of Lily Phillips a couple of months ago, as she was the first that really garnered global attention on this subject, at least in my view, as someone who doesn't really pay that much attention to this corner of the internet. X was on fire with her story back in December, as it was revealed in a documentary about her career that she had already accomplished the goal of sleeping with 100 men in a 24-hour period, and that she now had set her sights even higher on being the first to sleep with 1,000 men in a 24-hour period.
Still planning to do what I've called the 1,000
The
man challenge.
The man challenge. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my assistant's currently going through the 5,000 applications we have. They'll be getting, honestly, as quick as possible in, out. I just want a conveyor belt. We're maybe thinking most it'll be 17 hours.
And of course, the reason that this went viral is because people had a lot of opinions about this. And thankfully, I don't think I heard too many things that were encouraging, which is nice to know that as a society, we still seem to have a line in the sand where it's obvious that as much as we do want people, we want them to have the freedom to make their own choices as long as they're not hurting anybody else. There are just some things that go too far, and it is our job to call them out, no matter how much the person at the center of that decision promises that this thing is making them happy. So not long after Lily Phillips went viral, another woman started making her rounds on social media. This is a gal named Bonnie Blue, and she seemed to be trying to beat Lily Phillips and set a new record herself.
1,000 men in 24 hours. So it's going to be very quick.
How long is the day going to take?
I don't know how long today's going to take because I feel like the first few hours isn't busy.
So that's who these women are, and apparently what they believe is a productive use of their time and talents, which is honestly really sad. And it looks like these two were good friends and had a lot of similarities in their journeys to becoming famous on OF. And then, unfortunately, like so many women, competing for the attention of men is what tore them apart. Aside from the similarities in their goals and aspirations, these two have something else in common that I find to be even more disturbing than their bedroom activities. And it's the role that their families, specifically their mothers, play in all of this. Before I get into that, I just want to say, as a mom of a daughter, if my daughter came home and told me that she was selling her body online or in any way, and that she had this goal to sleep with 100 men or 1,000 men in a day, I would be absolutely devastated. I think the media and this far left movement that is intent on destroying traditional values, they do a really good job of painting parents' negative reactions to their kids' poor choices as being about them, the parents, that this is just a result of your parents' narcissism, that parents are just sad because they don't understand you as their child or what you're going through, that these boomers are too old and out of touch to understand how their kids feel or what they want. And they push this idea onto young people as those negative reactions from their parents, they're toxic, and they're just a result of being raised in an oppressive conservative generation. And that's really the problem, not the choice that you're making. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth. When my child makes a poor decision, I am actually really sad for them, because obviously, depending on that, what that choice is, even if they swear up and down that it's what they want, or you can tell that they truly believe that this is going to solve a problem or make them happy, as an adult, and specifically as their parent, knowing them far better than they know themselves, you can see all of the ways that this thing is likely going to cause them pain. And the last thing any parent wants for their kid is to face pain. We do the best that we can to teach them so that they can avoid pain in their life. And when they get hurt, we want to heal it and we want to fix it. But once a choice is made, that pain is inevitable and we're heartbroken, knowing that overcoming the consequences of that choice is going to be difficult and it'll be painful for them before it starts to get better. So that's where our minds are at. At least that's what the thought process is for a sane parent who has a healthy relationship with their child and a solid moral foundation of their own. But this is how Bonnie Blue's mom reacted when she was asked how she feels about what her daughter is doing.
Explaining to my mum.
Right. And how did you react to that?
I was gutted at first. I really
Really?
was. It was shock. I was really shocked because whatever I thought she would have told me herself, but it was just a shock 'cause it's something I never thought she would do.
And what has Bonnie achieved doing it in your eyes?
Well, where are you going next month? Yeah, we're going on a really nice holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so her making all that money, how has it affected you?
We've had nice holidays and nice gifts, but that doesn't bother me. She's happy, so I'm happy because she's happy.
Are you kidding me? I mean, she started out on the right foot when she said that she was gutted, but that protectiveness over her daughter was erased because she gets to go on nice vacations. She's completely willing to push aside the pain that she knows is coming for her daughter later in life and justify what she's doing as long as her daughter has a smile on her face and at least looks happy from the outside. She'll focus on the financial perks that are being provided to her and ignore the inevitable negative consequences that are coming after the dust settles and this young woman grows up and matures. But not only that, after her mom shoved down the initial negative feelings that she had that were absolutely normal, she started to assist her daughter in what she was doing. In this article that covered the interview, it says Sarah doesn't just support Bonnie from the sidelines, she has often been seen helping the porn star actively recruit young men to have sex with her daughter on camera. Sarah helped make a sign that read, "Uni students bonk me and let me film it," during Bonnie's visit to Nottingham Trent in the UK. Sarah has also been seen handing out flyers and condoms to students ahead of Bonnie's sex request at the university in September. That's just gross. As for Lily Phillips' parents, though they haven't been as openly supportive of their daughter's career, at least not in the same way, they seem to be just as on board with what she's doing. In another article that shared more of the background of Lily Phillips and that her parents provided a comfortable lifestyle for their family when Lily was growing up, as they owned their own business and worked hard, this is what it says of Lily's mom's or her parents' involvement in her career. It says Lily's parents have chosen not to publicly comment on their daughter's work, but her mother is responsible for handling her finances and help establish a property portfolio with her substantial earnings, said to be at least 6 figures per month. Lily currently lives in an exclusive area of West London, has already purchased a house in Derby, and said that she's currently looking at properties valued at around 1.5 million. Last year, Lindsay, who is Lily's father, sold his cleaning company and spent his retirement with his wife traveling the world and living in a camper van in the Derbyshire countryside. But even though they have remained tight-lipped about their daughter, Lily recently suggested in a podcast that her mother was responsible for her obsession with sex at such a young age and made her comments about her sexual practices too explicit to report. You know, I'm well aware that as parents, you can't control the choices that your kids make, especially when they become adults. My parents have told me a few times that there are choices I made that they just had to sit back and hold their breath on because as much as they disagreed with it, they knew that they couldn't stop me or get in the way. But they also didn't pull up a chair and be active participants in those choices. How is this any different than buying drugs for your addict child? I mean, I guess if your kid is dealing as well and becoming wealthy and bolstering a posh lifestyle for you, then it's fine. This is literally insane. And when it comes to the downward spiral of morality across society in general, as much as we dunk on these OF models and more women thinking that this is perfectly fine, parents are as much to blame as anyone else. But considering what ideas have been pushed onto society for decades, I guess where we're at now can't really be a surprise. I don't think it can ever be overstated how destructive feminism and progressive ideas have been on tearing down men and women. And this was always the intended goal of pushing these things. It was not about being inclusive or open-minded or to liberate women or embolden them or empower them. It was always meant to destroy. And as we know, it's been going on for a long time. And as much as we make fun of today's feminists, the goal of teaching this stuff was never just to stop at today's young men and women who are being spoon-fed this nonsense in their classrooms or online or through their liberal universities. Goal was always to plant as many of these seeds into the psychology of a generation as possible to normalize depravity, to normalize selfishness and narcissism, and then have it spread even further as new generations are being raised by the very people who were poisoned by these ideas in the first place. Basically like passing down of physical disease, but in the form of teachings and moral foundations, or lack thereof. Because what's going to drive more men and women down a path of moral decay to a point that is almost irreparable is if the very people that would otherwise deter them from making poor choices or heading down a path of personal destructions actually become the ones that are their biggest cheerleaders for it. And we can see that not in just the two instances that I have just discussed, but apparently Denise Richards has become a poster child for this insanity as well. Her daughter, Sami Sheen, joined OF at age 18 and started posing in lingerie and quickly rose to being a millionaire in this line of work.
I think what made me start an OnlyFans in the beginning is because I really wanted to get an apartment, and I knew that working at the candy shop I was working at wasn't going to cut it. So I went to the next best thing and made an OnlyFans. It opened so many doors for me, and I've met really cool people doing it, and it's been really nice and rewarding being my own boss and making my own hours and being able to do the things I've always wanted to do.
I'm sorry, but where does a child get the idea that her only choices in success are either working at a minimum wage job or selling themselves online? I think there are probably about 1 million options between a candy shop and being an online prostitute. And it's really disturbing how she's painting OF work as any other form of entrepreneurship, or as if this is what true female independence looks like, which just shows how the goal of desensitizing us to these things, where we used to be appalled by them and now we don't even bat an eye, has worked. Then, instead of having a conversation with her daughter about the countless other ways that she could be successful, Denise Richards thought that the best way to support her daughter was to join OF herself.
How do you both feel about your mom opening up an account?
I think it's great. I always just tell her I wish she waited a little bit because she started it right after I did. But yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. Lola might say something else.
Whatever she makes.
I don't know what more I could do. In my career, I've done so many different things, and so I really did it because I didn't understand what OnlyFans was. And that's the truth. Like, I was so uneducated about it. I had heard of it, but I didn't know what it was. And when I saw that Sami was getting so much backlash, it really upset me as a mom and also as a woman in this business, because I've done roles where I have been, I did Starship Troopers, very conservative, and a totally different role from, this was very beginning of my career. And when I did Wild Things, totally two different roles, and people could judge either one. And then after Wild Things, and then to be perceived as a sex symbol and doing photo shoots for that, and people can have an opinion about that. It bothered me that she was getting backlash for owning her own sexuality and her being a woman and doing what she wanted to do. And that's why I joined it. I didn't understand it. She was 18 years old. And crazy. I thought, oh my gosh, for her at 18 to have people have negative comments about her, it really bothered me. So that's why
There's so much to unpack here. So first, Denise acknowledges that she was aware from personal experience that the way you present yourself publicly has an impact because of the two very different reactions that she received from movies like Starship Troopers versus Wild Things. So if she was bothered by the latter, why wouldn't she instill that experience into her daughter like a normal mother would? So she's contradicting herself when she says that people reacting to her daughter this way is because she's a woman, when through her own experience, it's due to her personal choice on how she portrays herself. Secondly, the way that we frame backlash to certain issues just really grates on my nerves. Framing this as people who are responding this way because they can't handle an independent woman who wants to express herself in a way that doesn't align with conservative values. And in reality, most of the public reacts this way because underneath it all, as much as we've tried to stifle our natural views about women, most people do have an underlying desire to protect women, to keep them safe, and to want others to respect them. We hold women to a higher standard because we do see them as more susceptible to abuse with a lower ability to defend themselves, which is why we teach men to hone their masculinity in a positive way and to protect and defend women. But when you have a society where our morals have essentially been pureed in a blender and nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing anymore, you end up with more men ruining their lives by contributing to this nasty industry and bolstering it and then skewing their own view of women. You end up with mothers who, instead of being real with their own daughters about the reality of what these consequences might be, both physically and emotionally, they jump on board because they truly believe that this is what female empowerment looks like. It's absolutely vile. But as I said, this was always the goal of things like feminism and progressivism. This was always about turning women so upside down that they not only promote destructive ideas themselves, but then they pass it on to their daughters and hopefully eradicate traditional family values from society entirely. And now mothers are doing the work for the people who wanted to destroy society. They are passing on what they've learned and normalizing it for their own kids. Moms aren't saying no, they're now just appeasing their daughters. And I know that both mothers and fathers are responsible for their children, but as someone who has been watching Dr. Phil episodes for a long time, one thing that has always stuck with me that he has said is that the parent of the same-sex child is the one that is going to have the biggest influence on them. So fathers will be the biggest influence on their sons, and mothers will be the biggest influence on their daughters. And I don't think that there is any way to possibly measure the harm that is caused when moms specifically not only stand back as their daughters degrade and destroy themselves, but then they become active participants in pushing the idea on their daughters that this is the only value that they have. And there is no money or nice vacation that will ever make you feel better when the realization hits after the damage has been done. Anyway, that is all I have for this one. I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that like button. I would love it if you would subscribe. I am trying to grow this channel. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one.